President Cyril Ramaphosa has withdrawn the president's appeal against the judgment of the North Gauteng High Court that NPA boss Shaun Abrahams should vacate his position. Former President Jacob Zuma previously appealed the ruling by a full bench of judges of the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria that found he was conflicted to appoint the National Director of Public Prosecutions. The case is scheduled to be heard on Wednesday. Abrahams is still appealing the matter. We're joined on the line by Paul Ngobeni, who is a legal expert. Mr. Ngobeni, thank you so much for your time. What does this mean for Shaun Abrahams now that the appeal has been repealed, or rather revoked by the president?
Well, it doesn't affect the NPA's appeal or Mr. Abrahams' appeal. It's very unfortunate that President Ramaphosa is showing his hand as a president who does not understand the Constitution or respect the Constitution. If you may recall, when President Mbeki was removed and he appealed the Judge Nicholson's judgment implicating him in political meddling in Zuma's prosecution, President Zuma did not withdraw President Mbeki's appeal. He allowed the president to pursue the appeal all the way to the SCA. And the SCA had the opportunity to rule on that. What President Ramaphosa should have done is to recognize that this case raises novel constitutional issues. For instance, even as to how the executive, as a president, should there ever be a conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest? How is that dealt with? So he is saying he doesn't even want to give the Constitutional Court the opportunity to give us a final answer on that.
Are you saying that he's in contempt of the Constitution in short?
Well, he's certainly not following the Constitution. I mean, how do you, when there are these serious constitutional issues that require a court to pronounce on, how do you just come in and say, I withdraw them? Well, you know, I just don't, I'm puzzled by the way he's acting. I'm shocked, to be honest with you, because what should have happened is he should have realized that this matter is in the hands of the judiciary. We have separation of powers in this country. Allow the judiciary to guide us. Allow the judiciary to pronounce on whether or not the Gauteng High Court was correct in, first of all, saying that Abrahams' appointment was invalid and that the president was conflicted, the then President Zuma was conflicted, and that the way to resolve that conflict was to have his deputy perform the duty of the president. These are constitutional issues that we want to have the Constitutional Court pronounce on. We have very competent judiciary. The Constitutional Court is quite capable of guiding us and guiding the executive on these issues. So I think it's done to make a political statement rather than to the withdrawal, that is, was done to make a political statement, not to show a proper deference to the judiciary and not to show proper respect for the separation of powers principle.
And what bearing does this have on Shaun Abrahams' appeal in the validity of his fitness to hold office?
Well, I think Shaun Abrahams' appeal must still be pursued vigorously, because even that raises novel constitutional issues that the Constitutional Court must finally pronounce on. Obviously, when you have the executive, that is the president, the head of the executive, withdraw his part of the appeal, it leaves Shaun Abrahams pretty much on his own. When he walks into that court, no matter how strong his argument is, obviously, it's not going to have as much weight as when the executive walks into that court and say, we feel that the High Court overstepped its bound. We feel that they were wrong. But here's President Ramaphosa saying, I'm withdrawing it because I don't think it has merit. I'm withdrawing it because I don't support Abrahams. Because he already has his eyes on maybe appointing another person of his own choosing or preference.
So you're saying that the imminent removal of Shaun Abrahams is a reality?
Well, it will not happen unless Abrahams loses his appeal, which is, I think, if the court is to be fair and look at the constitutional issues, remove the emotions, remove the politics around it, I think the court was wrong in how it dealt with the Shaun Abrahams matter.
Mr. Ngobeni, we're going to have to leave it there. I beg your pardon. Paul Ngobeni, a legal expert, joining us on the phone line on the President Cyril Ramaphosa has now reversed the appeal of the North Gauteng High Court that found that President Jacob Zuma was conflicted in appointing the NDPP.